In notes number 2, we're going to use our trig and trig ratios to find a missing side. So I copied over what we had seen on the previous video, and that was all of this up here, so our ratios of how they're set up. So remember, tangent is opposite over adjacent, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And there's our labels again. And one thing you need to make sure is that in your calculator, in the mode, you need to make sure that it is set into degree. If you're not sure how to do this, then make sure you ask your teachers as soon as you get to class tomorrow so that you can figure that out. All right, so for number 1, we need to label our sides based on our degree that we are given, and we need to find the value of the variable that's given. So in number 1 is letter A, and across from our 43 is our opposite. So the side is opposite, our 11 is adjacent, and the side AB is our hypotenuse in our picture, and that's just based off of our degree that we are given. We need to set up our ratio, and what you have to start noticing is what pieces do we have. We have to use the 11, and we're going to be using our 43 degrees, and then one side needs to be a variable. So that would be right over here, and that's the side we need to find. So you have to ask yourself what uses opposite and adjacent, and that is tangent. So we're going to be using tangent of our angle is our opposite over adjacent, and then we can fill in the pieces that we have. So tangent of our angle, and that would be 43 degrees. Opposite is our letter A, adjacent is the 11. Now, what is mentioned up here is if we make a ratio and a proportion, and we can cross multiply to solve. So notice the tangent of 43 does not have a fraction, but the other side does. So the easiest way of solving this is putting it over 1, and now we can cross multiply our opposite pieces together. So I would have a 1 times my A equals 11 times the tangent of 43. And you want to keep parentheses around that because that's really just a decimal number altogether. Next, when we simplify this, this gives us A equals 11 times, and if I type in the tangent of 43, I get a bunch of decimal numbers. So I get 0.932515 if I list a bunch of them out. And now if we multiply it, we get that our letter A is equal to 10.258. On number 2, I would like you to solve this yourself, but I will help you set it up first. So across from the 56 is our x, and that is opposite. And then connecting it to the right angle is our adjacent. So you have adjacent and you have opposite. So you will be using tangent again. So go ahead and set up your equation and then solve for x. All right, so since you know it's tangent again, we have tangent of the degree, so our 56 degrees equals opposite over adjacent, so x over 13. When we put our tangent of 56 over 1 to get our fraction, and then we can cross multiply, we have something similar like we did in number 1. So you have 1 times x equals 13 times the tangent of 56. The tangent of 56 is 1.48256. And then times 13, we end up with our x is 19.273. In number 3, you're going to notice when we set this up that our variable is going to end up in a different place. And I want to show you how to solve that if our variable is not on the top of that fraction, that it could be on the bottom. Again, we have opposite over adjacent, so we have tangent again. That part isn't changing. Of our degree equals our opposite over adjacent. When we put it over 1 and then we can cross multiply, this is the part that will look a little different. So we have 1 times our 11 equals x times the tangent of 32. Now look where the variable is. So what you need to do is the tangent of 32 is 0.62489 around equals 11, and you have to ask yourself, how do you solve for the x? So if we need to separate this number from the variable, we need to divide by this number. When we divide by this number, it cancels off of the right, And then the left-hand side, when we divide 11 divided by that decimal, we get 17.604. And that's what our x value is going to equal. At number 4, I'm moving this over just so I have some more room because we need to find the b and the c. But first we need to label. So our opposite is our b, adjacent is the 8, and hypotenuse is our c. And now you might wonder, well, what pieces do you need to use to solve for the b or the c? So if we want to solve for the b, just choose one of them. We're going to solve for b. And we have to use this adjacent because that's where the number is at. And since we're solving for b, we need to use the b. So we have opposite and adjacent. So we have tangent again, which by now you should be pretty good at this one. So tangent of our degree equals the opposite over adjacent. And then we can cross multiply by putting it over 1 and then cross multiplying our pieces. So we have 1 times b on the left equals our 8 times the tangent of 25. So that means b, if I find the tangent of 25 and I multiply it by my 8, I end up with 3.730. Okay, so I don't want to use that number again. I could use the b to find what the c is, but I just want to start all over. And I'm going to choose a different color now. I know I still have to use my 8 meters because that's where my number was given, and I need to find my hypotenuse, so I need to find my c, so I have to use the c. So notice the pieces I have now. I have adjacent and hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse is my cosine. So cosine of my angle is equal to my adjacent over my hypotenuse. So then we need to fill in our pieces. So cosine of 25 degrees. Adjacent is our 8. Hypotenuse is my c. And now we can cross multiply with our remaining pieces. So we have 1 times 8 on the left. And then we have c times the cosine of 25. Now remember, if the variable's on the same side with our cosine part, we need to divide by that decimal. This time I'm just going to leave it as the cosine of 25 because sometimes it's a little bit easier to do that, and then you don't have to write any decimal numbers. So we're going to type in our calculator 8 divided by the cosine of 25, and that gives us 8.827. And that's what our c value is going to equal on number 4. Now on number 5, I'm going to let you do more of the solving part on here. And what we need to find is we need to find the height of the tree. So let's label that an x. I want you to label the opposite side and your adjacent side and your hypotenuse. So go ahead and label your triangle. So the opposite should be right here. Your adjacent should be with your 30, and your hypotenuse should be right there. That's how we don't have to find. And we need to use the 30 because we're given that number, and we're trying to find the x, so we have to use that number. And the only one that uses adjacent and opposite again is our tangent. So tangent of our degree equals our opposite over adjacent. And now I want you to go through and solve for the x. So what you should have gotten when you cross multiply your pieces together, you should get 30 times the tangent of 57 equals a 1x. And when you type all of that into the calculator, you end up with 46.196 feet. And that's what your height of the tree is going to be. This last question is a pretty typical question, just because we have an airplane flying in the air, and I just wanted to have the picture drawn for you so you could just practice labeling the sides based on your picture and answering some different questions from it. So our plane is taking off, and it is 60 degrees with where it started from, way over here, and with the ground. And we are trying to find what our h is. So we're going to label that as our adjacent because it connects our angle to the 90 degrees. And our 1,000 is the hypotenuse. We need to use the 1,000 because that's where the number came from, and we need to use our h since that's what we're solving for, and we have adjacent and hypotenuse. This is cosine again of our angle. Cosine of our angle is our adjacent over your hypotenuse, so let's go ahead and fill those in. So cosine of 60 should equal our h over 1,000. Now when you cross multiply, you'll be multiplying your 1 times your h on the left, and then 1,000 times cosine of 60 on the right, and 1,000 times cosine 60 gives you 500 exactly. So our height is going to be 500, and we'll just say it's units, or let's say it's feet, off of the ground because they don't give us the units in the picture. Now one thing I want you to notice is because this is 60 degrees, remember our right triangles? So if this is 60 degrees and this is 30, and we already, the h we were not given, but the 1,000 we were, and if we solve this using our special rights, and I label this accordingly, I set my 2x equal to the 1,000, divide both sides by 2, and I get all my pink x's are 500. So if I fill those in, this is 500 over here, and this is 500 square root 3. And notice that right here is the same answer that we got down below. So you could use trig, or you could use our special right triangles to fill out those, to find out those answers, but that only works if it is 60, 30, and 90, or you have your 45, 45, 90 triangles.